Hey y'all, Mila the Hangry Woman here, and today I am talking about things I wish I knew when I was first diagnosed with diabetes. Before we get started, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and if you're looking for any content about life with diabetes, you have landed in the right place. I make cooking content, coffee content, and I also talk about just living with diabetes and different topics around living with diabetes. So if you like that kind of stuff, you're already here. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll jump into the video. I wanted to make this video for a few reasons. I was diagnosed with diabetes in 2016, and I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes after a few years of oral meds that didn't work, changing my diet, which I've gone into this before, but I was actually like eating pretty well and exercising a lot when I was diagnosed with diabetes. So there was kind of this confusion around like, well, what else am I supposed to do? So after that, failing oral medications and just trying really hard for very little results, I found out that I actually had a type of diabetes called Latent Autoimmune Diabetes in adults, or LADA. It's also called type 1.5, and it's where your beta cell destructions happen slowly over time rather than all at once, like with type 1. So your onset of symptoms is very, very similar to both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, but you end up losing beta cell function. You also end up losing insulin production, and then slowly over time, you have to take insulin for the rest of your life. And so I have honestly had kind of like the weirdest, most non-linear diagnosis road to diabetes than most people. Like, most people have a definitive diagnosis, they know what's going on. And so I'm kind of in that middle point. And I was doing some reflection on things that I had learned at this point in my diabetes journey. Like I said, I was diagnosed in 2016. So I've had, like, I think May of this year is my 6th diaversary. I was diagnosed first in May and then re-diagnosed. So diagnosed in May 2016, re-diagnosed in November of 2020. So it's like weird to me that I've been living with this for this long, and that my perception of living with diabetes has changed over so much time. And I really wanted to share these things that I've learned, and not that I know everything, because obviously, like, 6 years living with diabetes is still baby stages, but I thought that it might be helpful to anyone who stumbles across it to kind of see in this moment of time the things that I'm thinking about my life with diabetes. And then also, I would love for you guys to contribute. So, after you watch this video or during or whatever, please leave a comment down below. One big thing that I love is that you guys as a community chime in and you give some of the best advice, so much better than I could even do. And I feel like the video usually just opens up with me talking about it, and then you guys take it and run with it. So I hope that this is what this becomes, almost like a little time capsule of advice for anybody who is first diagnosed and doesn't know what to do. Okay, first thing that I wish I would have known right off the bat is that medications don't mean that you're a failure, and they are not a bad thing. Medications can help you get to your goals a lot faster. Something that I did was I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels on trying to exercise more, diet more. I ended up restricting food a lot, and that was pretty harmful to me and to my mental state. I also would over-exercise. I would spend like 2 hours a day out of my day trying to exercise, trying to get movement. And while that seems like a good thing, it wasn't actually doing much to impact my blood sugars, and I couldn't understand why. And so I think it's really important that there's balance in what you're doing. And if you have to get on medication, it's okay to take that route. I think we stigmatize medication, we stigmatize the help that it can give our bodies to just get to the place that we need it to get. And I wish that I wouldn't have spent so much time like fumbling over the decision to go on meds. It was presented to me as a negative thing, and so that's how I felt about it. And then when I did finally eventually get on medication anyway, because I was going to need it regardless, I felt so ashamed that I had gotten to that point. And so I think it's very, very important to recognize that your body needs what it needs. So if you need insulin, if you need a GLP-1 like Ozempic or Trulicity or Victoza, if you need oral medications like metformin or Jardiance or glipizide, none of those things are bad things. I think that we stigmatize them just like as a society in general, but if your body needs the help, it needs the help. And so if medication is the route that you have to take, don't shy away from that and consider it carefully, because it might be something that gets you to the place that you want to get without you having to spin your wheels so much. Another thing that I wish I had known is that reading labels can actually be enjoyable. It's been really cool to like walk down the aisle in the grocery store, pick up a bottle or can or a package, read the nutrition label, see what ingredients are in some of the foods that I really like, and also just kind of like be aware and know the carb counts of different things. And I think that that process can be really eye-opening. It can show you what foods can work really well for you. It can also just show you what you're actually eating, which I think is always a helpful thing. And you start to kind of memorize those serving sizes and carb counts. And I think that that's a really helpful tool, but it seems really daunting at first if you don't know how to do it. So I do have a label reading, like a nutrition label reading video that kind of breaks down what is on a nutrition label and what it means and how to read it. And I think that that's just such a helpful tool in knowing more about what you're eating and how it's affecting your blood sugars. I think something else that I wish I knew is that you don't have to give up all of the foods that you love. You just have to get creative with making them in different ways or learning how to enjoy different portion sizes. And so something that I was always told like at first when I first decided to meet with a dietitian and to have that conversation about diabetes, I was kind of told like, these are all things that you can't eat anymore. Get these out of your house, out of your pantry, and you kind of need to start over and reset. And what that meant was that a lot of my cultural foods were canceled. I'm Jamaican, and so things like rice and peas, couldn't have that anymore according to the food charts. You know, my favorites like beef patties, couldn't have those because too many carbs. And so rather than learning an approach to here's a strategy to eating these foods, it was just like, here's a food list of foods that you now need to incorporate into your eating plan. And that was really hard for me to adjust to. And so really, Hangry Woman and like my food blog was born out of rejecting that a little bit and like figuring out a way that I could enjoy the foods that I really wanted to enjoy. And so I think that's one thing that I would tell people who are newly diagnosed is like, there's not all this hope that's lost when you get diagnosed with diabetes. Like, you don't have to feel like you're deprived. You don't have to feel like you can't have the things that you really enjoy and that you like. You just may have to change the way that you eat them. And working with a good healthcare professional will help you understand that and help you figure out how to navigate that. I wish I knew that being misdiagnosed is possible, and I wish that people would have told me that earlier on when I was struggling. And I didn't really know that you could be misdiagnosed with a different type of diabetes. That was something that I just like wasn't aware of. I didn't think happened until it happened to me. And so I wish I would have known that when I was first diagnosed, I could have asked for testing. You can ask for antibody testing and C-peptide tests to confirm your diagnosis if your doctor doesn't do that. Like, if you are just diagnosed by the height of your blood sugar, like I was diagnosed because my blood sugar was 323, but I had never had the confirmation testing. And so later on down the line when I did, and then I was positive for antibodies and I also had a low C-peptide result, you know, my endocrinologist said, okay, well, you're in the honeymoon phase of LADA, and so here's what that means, which is eventually you'll lose insulin production, you'll be on insulin full time, so you'll keep taking insulin, but we have the ability to flex and work with you because you still produce small amounts of insulin, and you can take other medications that can help manage your blood sugar. So I think for me, hearing that and knowing that there was the possibility that I could be misdiagnosed was something that I wish I had known on the onset, because it would have, I think, shifted the hope that I had. Because when I was diagnosed with type 2, my hope was, okay, well, maybe I can get off of medication. Maybe I won't ever have to take insulin and it'll be fine. And then I learned, like, okay, well, no, you're never going to get off of insulin. This is a lifelong thing. Like, this is going to happen to you for the rest of your life. So that's one of those things that you just kind of wish you knew, so that you wouldn't struggle so much, or at least I wish I knew so I wouldn't have struggled so much. Another thing that I wish that I had known is that there is technology available that helps make your life a little bit easier. So this video is not sponsored, but I am an ambassador for Freestyle Libre. And I love my Freestyle Libre. I am wearing it right now. You can see it on my arm when you're behind me. And it has just been a lifesaver for me in terms of being able to check my levels when I need to. It has optional alarms, so sometimes I don't have to like keep continually scanning and checking my phone, which is really, really nice. And I can get alerted if I like go low in my sleep or if I'm high after a meal. Like, it's just awesome. And then I don't have to do finger sticks as much because I'm able to get readings off of my Freestyle Libre. So I think that I wish that those kinds of technologies were discussed with me as options. There's even more technology. There's tubeless pumps that like are insulin pumps, so you don't have to do manual injections. There's insulin smart pens that help to track how much insulin you're using when you're injecting, all of that kind of stuff. There are, tubed pumps. There are just so many options out there, so many different CGMs even. And I wish that those options were all presented rather than me just kind of being like, okay, I have to stick my finger every single day. Sometimes it's a matter of the prescribing physician maybe doesn't know about the technology or, isn't aware of like how to use it or how to give it to a patient. But I think it's always great for us to be informed as patients and then bring those tools to our doctors and say, hey, this is something that I think would really help me. This is something that I really want. Could you prescribe it to me? I think that it would help my quality of life. I think I could use this. And I wish that I had known more of that and I had been kind of like immersed in that on the onset, because honestly, like the day I got a CGM, I feel like my diabetes management was better. So I think those are things that are really helpful to look for and to ask for in your diabetes management and your relationship with your healthcare provider. I wish I had known earlier on that logging my progress was a really helpful tool in understanding patterns. And so I have the Freestyle Libre, obviously, so I don't have to write down every single one of my blood sugars, but it also would have been really awesome to be able to kind of see where I started and see where I am now. And so I am an author. I think some of you guys know that. And I wrote a book called The Diabetes Food Journal, and it is a food journal that basically just details what you eat during the day. If you want to track your weight, that's in there. If you want to track how much water you drink a day, that's in there. If you want to track medications, that's in there. And so it gives you kind of like a full scope of how you're doing, and it keeps track for 4 months. So it's a really, really nice book to be able to just like keep with you, and then you can flag pages to show your doctor. You can kind of like give them an overall essence of what you've been going through, and then you have these like details that you can really sit and talk with them about. So I love that. I also love logging digitally. So I'll write things down as like a memory peg in my iPhone note, and I'll take that with me to the doctor so that I have it. Sometimes I bring a notebook because some doctors are like, don't have your phone out. I don't want you to be on your phone, but like that's where I keep my notes a lot of the time. So sometimes I have like a little notebook that I bring with me, but for the most part, I'm able to keep it on my phone and then just kind of have my bulleted list that I check off with questions that I have. I wish I knew that there were support groups. So there are lots of apps. I am a guide for an app called Busy T2D, which is a community. It's an anonymous community, non-judgmental space with chats, with different forums about different things about diabetes, specifically for people with type 2 diabetes. And I love communities like that because it just gives you a sense that you're not feeling alone. There are so many other people living with diabetes, and I think sometimes we get into a place where we feel like we're the only ones and we're the only ones going through it. And being in a community of people like that, it just helps you see that you're not alone, and there's great advice sharing, there's great knowledge sharing, and it's just a really positive place. And so I think seeking out a community that fits for you and that ensures that you feel safe and protected and you don't feel judged by anyone in those groups, because that's really hard to find online these days. It's like a place where you just don't feel judged. But getting to that place, once you find it, is awesome. And I think that support is so helpful because you know that you're not going through it alone. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you have anything else that you want to add, please, 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 please do drop it in the comments below. I would love to see what you have to say and what advice you have for anyone who stumbles across this video in the future. And I'm just really glad that you guys take the time to listen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye.